Live. Live.
Good afternoon, listeners. Welcome to the 9 Years Podcast live show. We have dubbed not the Drive Time Show because we're not driving anywhere. Firstly, before we go any further, I would like to make an apology. It's got a serious thing on behalf of everybody. I would like, on behalf of George and Chris and our other guests, Graham, Stacey has joined us already. Thank you, Graham. We'd all like to apologise for offending your ears. Due to that song, the intro music was chosen by Nick Draper, who is not with us today, and that is the walk-on theme music of his favourite lady wrestler, Alexa Bliss. I can't remember what the song's called, but it's by CFOs, but the S of CFOs is a $sign, which immediately made me hate them. So I'm sorry if you didn't like the music. Please don't call in or tweet us or mention it on Facebook or YouTube. It's nothing to do with us, but it does make Jack Rodoni's choice of song from last week sound like Stairway to Heaven. Anyway, so that is over with, so I apologise for that. Now, I'm Kevin Burrows, if you may have already guessed that. And today I've been joined by Mr. George Jones. Hey, George.
Hello.
God, that was sultry. George joins us all the way from sunny Cornwall. And also presenting the show today for the first time, we have to have a Draper on the show. It is law, and we've been joined by Chris Draper. Hey, Chris.
Evening, YouTube and people. How are we?
I think we're all fine. Now, you are joining us from the sunny south coast as well, but from the opposite end of England, yes?
A little bit of an opposite end. I was in Cornwall last week in the most bizarre circumstances, but no, I'm back home in Eastbourne now. And it's very sunny.
Is it? Yeah, it's quite sunny. I'm in Croydon, and it is very sunny and remarkably quiet. So well done to everyone for staying in. So that's always good. So
both of those elements, by the way, very rare for Croydon.
Exactly. Yes, people are staying in, and it's sunny. Doesn't happen very often. So we're also joined today. We have three guests on the programme. Joining us a little bit later on, we have Rob Tuvey, who is the Dons under-18 head coach. He has sent in a song for us to play for him. And thank God it's a decent one. We'll be playing some games with him, and we'll not football games, of course. We're talking to him about how he's come through the ranks of being a Wimbledon fan, to being a Wimbledon coach, and it's his dream job, and it's just exactly what he's doing at the moment. We're talking about how he identifies players and gets them into the first team. There's this path, of course, which the club is famous for having. And we're also joined right this very second by Mr. Graham Stacey from the Dons Trust Board. Hello, Graham.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on this sunny day.
It's lovely. If only the viewers could see this, or listeners could see this, because Graham is wearing a fantastically patterned shirt. It's great. It's quite fetching. It's a very nice shirt. I think it's that you dressed up for the occasion. Where are you, Graham? We can see that you're in your living room, but where are you, sir?
I'm in Hampshire. I'm in Hook in Hampshire, which no one's ever heard of. It's a village.
That's not true. I have heard of that Hook.
Have you?
Yes.
Because there is a Hook right next to Kingston, and I always get the two.
There is.
There is.
Yeah, yeah, we do get mistaken for that occasionally. Not often, because...
No, I was going to say, not too much.
I've never heard of it.
There used to be a recording studio in just outside Hook, and I think I recorded one of my singles there in 1996. I'll look it up, but it's just outside Hook. I'll see if I can find it. It's Odium. Are you new Odium?
Yes.
Odiham. There was a recording called Acorn.
Odium.
Just remembered, Acorn Studios. My brain is working. I'm on full power today. Acorn Studios in Odium.
Really?
Run by a guy called Andy Acorn. Known as Andy.
That's a big village along.
Is it? Well, there you go.
There's nothing else there.
No.
I didn't know there was that there.
It probably isn't anymore, sadly. But anyway, there we go. And also on the show at about 6 o'clock, we have got Matthew Couper, who is the author or the playwright. Not an author of a play, not author of a book. Anyway, Matthew wrote the fantastic play A Fans Club, which was performed a few years ago. And time has moved on. Things have moved on. The club's moved on. Matthew has moved on. I mean, how on version 2. Hopefully, we were going to see this play performed live in the summer. Clearly not going to happen in the summer. Will happen later in the year. We'll be chatting to Matthew at 6 o'clock, talking about what inspired him for a new version of the play. So that's fantastic. So let's talk to our main guest, Mr. Stacey. Graham, let's talk briefly about. I know there's certain things being a member of the Don's Trust Board because you got elected in November. Certain things you can talk about, certain things you can't. However, we're fully aware of this, and we know that certain things are just for board discussion only. Can we talk about the one thing that people are kind of concerned with right now, football-wise, is the stadium? Now, construction work around the country is going on, of course.
Yeah.
What the government described as essential construction can continue. Are we saying the football stadium is essential? I think we probably are in that case. But can you give us the latest update? What's been going on this week, and how are you going to find out? How do we know how long this will be able to go on for? How long can the Buckingham Group contractors continue to build the stadium under current conditions?
Well, that's obviously a very good question and a very difficult one to answer. Not because, as you say, I can't relay things, but because the actual answer is we don't actually know how long it'll go on for. Work's going on at the moment. There are certain elements that can be worked upon, like the pitch, with safe social distancing and so forth. And some of the stands, the temporary stands, as I understand it, they're pretty much prefab. And they can more or less be airlifted in. So it's very much that's off-site, not so much affected. In terms of hitting target to start playing there in the new season, if that were to happen on target itself, you've just got to play it by ear at the moment. I think it's the way of the world, isn't it? Obviously, safety is the most important thing.
Yeah, of course.
And as it stands, we're not too far off schedule, if at all. But I don't envisage that being the way for the next few months. We don't know how things are going to pan out in the wider world, and that's going to affect us. But as it stands, we're not looking too shabby. Or it's I wouldn't say it's all systems go, but but things are going on, which is great. But obviously, we're never going to push on when that impinges on safety of people. So that's where we are. It's not something I can't answer because I shouldn't or anything. It's just something that I think there is an answer to at the moment, really.
So how many people are working on the site on an average day then?
Oh, I don't know.
Come on.
You're near it.
We'd have that written down.
You want me to go and count? 52.
No.
And you go down there and prove me wrong.
So if someone lives nearby, at the end of the programme, go and count how many people are next to.
Okay.
So obviously about now, originally, the original plans back in February, the original plans were the pitch would be laid about sort of beginning of this week. So what is actually happening with the pitch? Because obviously once the pitch goes down, it looks like a football ground rather than the side.
Yes, I don't think we're far off that at all. But that could change tomorrow. As I said, the last update was pitch ready to go, and then this is affected, this isn't affected, but they're working on it at the moment to schedule pretty much. It's quite amazing, really. So we could be in there in August if the world healed itself overnight. We could yet be in on time.
But there's very hard to think of any positives about what's going on in the world now. But let's look at it micro positives. We're all football fans. We all support the same football team. Let's look at it that. We're not looking at the bigger picture of how many people are dying and stuff. We know that. We're looking at little things for ourselves, right? Let's try and elevate ourselves. The fact that, let's say, next season, we don't count this season. Forget this season. Next season starts. Let's say it starts in October, right, rather than August. Does that actually help our build in any way? Does it mean we can get everything finished and test everything rather than rush it towards the end of August? I'm not saying they're rushing because everything's going to plan, but you never any building project. You build an IKEA wardrobe, something will go wrong halfway through, and you've got to stop. Building a massive football stadium, completely different thing. So, is it actually handy to have the extra time potentially?
It would give us a cushion, a safety net. I think, but then you come into the funding kind of side of things. And the thing is, if you were to say to me tomorrow, here's all the money, you need to start paying it back from next month, though.
Yeah.
And I didn't know when the season was starting. I think, well, that's a bit airy because I might not have any revenue until December, January. So do I then accept your funding?
Yeah.
Then there's more negotiation has to go on. Whether you say, okay, you don't have to start repaying us until January, or the season starts in October, repay us then, which is great, and we've got the safety net, and I think we're looking very positive, very good situation. But if it started a bit before then, I think we'd be okay. All things being equal, and
Okay, so what is the next step that you know of in terms of the actual construction, rather than the pitch itself, in terms of the actual infrastructure? Because I mean, at some point it's all going to be done, but if you haven't been to the new stadium site, listeners, you can't actually see any of it from the road. Now, it's not a bad thing, but if people are still thinking about the original artist impression, which looked like Tottenham's ground, isn't it? You can't see the new stadium from the road. You will see the flats basically, and there's a football ground kind of hidden in the middle. So there'll be access roads. There'll be all kinds of stuff going on the outside. Do you know how the build is going to go in that sense? Is it with stadium finished and flats finished and then the access roads finished? Is it all finishes as it happens?
That's very well. You've got me on one there, because the discussion. That is one I probably couldn't go into the detail of, because negotiations are happening, and I wouldn't want to say something's happened, someone to overhear that and say, well, it's not. As it's a negotiation thing, but and this is kind of my personal opinion here, but as I understand it, and I don't work in construction, so there's very limited understanding. I don't know the headlines and I have an understanding of that. If we were to go ahead and input things which can be input into the ground, like, as I say, sort of airlifted in, the prefab kind of temp stands and so forth, the pitch can be completed, we'd probably be able to get up to 5,000 capacity. It wouldn't be the ground we want, but it would be there. But that is depending on construction continuing and things not being called off further than they are. If it was to continue as is, where limited construction and certain types of construction with social distancing and so forth were to continue, we could move into a 5,000 seater in, I don't know, September or whenever it is, or you said October. But we wouldn't have, I don't know whether we'd have bars or anything kitted out, because that's where you've got people painting in close proximity, and wiring and so forth. The whole thing is, with these projects, as I understand it again, is Buckingham have been very good to us, and if they wanted to put 50 people in to do the build, get it done a bit quicker with all the intricate detail, then they could, and it would be quicker. But obviously, if you've got one person doing the wiring in a room, it's going to be, and that's kind of where we're at. So certain elements can be done, and they could still be done as we are, but it would be quicker to have more people working there. But that's the safety thing. We're not going to miss it.
Sure. Okay. Thanks. Chris, do you have any questions for Graham on the stadium?
Not on the stadium so much. Although, was the plan always to have it quite so encased in flats? Out of interest.
Oh well, I wasn't there when it was originally drawn up. I know it's been.
No, I wondered if that was something you might know in the background. That was all.
I don't. The number. I don't think that has the number changed. The number of flats since the beginning. I'm not sure.
I wasn't sure. I'm pinning my hopes too much on that wonderful CGI version of the stadium. Everybody hates.
Oh well, yeah. I don't know if that.
That's not. That was never accurate. That's the 20,000, isn't it?
That's the 20,000, and apparently, what's his face still playing for us? Whose name now escapes because he was so poor. Jake Jervis. That's the one. Who put him in that picture? I'll never know.
Yeah, but you got the picture from the top that was still on the outside of the construction site now. You've still got that picture.
That's a good marketing tool, but
it's a great marketing tool, but it's misleading because it's a 20,000 stadium with floodlights going through the roof and 26 players on the pitch. By the way, someone counted.
26. Outstanding. Now that's
but that's good call.
It's a stat from a man who has nothing else to do at this stage.
Yes, I did not count them. But that was a funny thing. So George and Nick and I went to visit the site 3 weeks ago. And I think I'd driven past it, but I just hadn't stopped because I was driving. Hadn't realised just how enormous those blocks of flats are. And they are all encompassing. They're quite ominous. But from the main stand, that's going to be a great view. You're just looking at this, it's like a medieval castle, reminding me kind of Hogwarts. When you have the Quidditch game, you've got this really high-sided stadia or house at stand. So, but there's 8 block flats, several hundred flats up there. It's going to be quite an exciting kind of build when it's done. It's just so frustrating now, isn't it? Okay, it's just we've got this far, we've raised all this money, and then this happens. Obviously, this is
we are so close. We are so close, and obviously everything's changed in the last week or so. But without I wouldn't say I popped the champagne corks, but we're so close. And then obviously this, and it's like, oh come on, what next?
Yeah.
Obviously, this being the biggest by far, but we're so close. All things being equal, it was there's so many people, the Bond guys and everything.
I think I said yesterday we waited 29 years for this.
Yeah.
Another few months. No. Okay. So George, we have some social media interaction, and we have questions for Graham.
Yeah,
I'm going to read them out.
Star Wars.
The first question comes from Twitter from @Slowwomble, and he wants to know: is there any news on the loan after the success of the Plough Lane Bond?
I sound like a politician, but I refer to my answer from a moment ago, where everything's very positive. Nothing's been signed. And I think, I mentioned earlier, there is a dilemma. If you were to offer me a loan today, would I accept it? Because I don't know when I can start repaying it. I don't know when I've got the income to cover that. So it's there's been a lot of positive progress, and it's I'd say until a week ago or whenever the world collapsed, it was very exciting, and things were shaping up very nicely. As I say, the bond was a game changer, absolutely. And everything was shaping up nicely, and none of it involved losing control, which was the massive thing for me. And it was So is there news? There's not much I can share. It's a movable feast. A couple of weeks ago, I say the champagne was on ice, and it was like everything was looking really good. And nothing's really changed in that. It's still a positive, exciting time, and I think we're so close. But we don't know when we can start repaying things. And it's something that's got to be considered. And as I say, it's a movable feast every day. We don't know what's going to happen, what's around the corner. We're looking 2 weeks ahead. As Kevin said, we've been waiting for 29 years. So if it's a couple of months, then great. And we're 2 weeks ago, we're so close. So I don't think we're far off.
Okay, we've got 2 questions from Mike Hasty. The first of which is: does he know where we'll be playing next season if Plough Lane isn't finished, and have we had our last game at Kingsmeadow?
I don't. I don't think anyone does, though. It's not something. Again, it's not something I'd love to share. What I can say is we do have. We don't. The EFL, last I heard, were adamant that they wanted to finish the season. Now, I don't know how realistic that is personally, and that may well change. What I can say is there's Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan Z. All the usual things you'd expect, I think, about where will we be playing, and a few you might not expect. So if the season were to continue over the summer, could we play at Kingsmeadow? Possibly. That discussion's underway. May we need somewhere else? Possibly. Those discussions are underway. But we don't know when we're looking to play our next game at the moment, and we don't know when the season's going to start, and we don't know if this construction can go ahead. So it's so much up in the air. So as I say, I don't think anyone knows the answer. It's not something I don't want to share or can't share or shouldn't share. It's just it's a movable feast again.
Sure. Yeah.
My stock answer now.
Yeah. One other question from Mike Hasty, and he just wants to know, I imagine this will be a similar answer, but he wants to know if there's any update on the naming rights of the new stadium.
There have been this. If you'd asked me a few weeks ago, I said, yes, it's all looking really good. Now I don't know, because I think you've got what I can say is anyone you speak to, they don't know how their business is going to be affected, or whether it's affected for the next month or the next 6 months. So there was some positivity there, and read between the lines, it was very positive. But whether that's going to be the case when we get dates to start playing and moving in again, I don't know, because that's up to the companies involved.
Yeah.
There were companies wanting to get involved and very, very advanced discussions. But again, nothing signed. And will the company the companies we're speaking to, are they going to sign with us? I don't know, because they're probably saying wait and see.
Yeah.
So that's where we're on that. Talks have been ongoing. It's all very positive and very exciting, and then the world fell apart, and it's put it on hold a bit. I'd love to say we'd got their signature beforehand, but then if we had, I think they'd have probably been looking to hold fire. So it's ongoing, and it's much further down the line than it was, I don't know, 6 months ago when.
Okay.
One last question from social media, which is on the YouTube comments, is from Gareth Hayward, and he wants to know if we can't get a loan, what can we afford to build with the money we currently have? Are we still looking at that 5,000 restricted build we were told about in December?
I don't think that was ever really the realistic option, to be honest. We looked at the stripped back stadium, and the millions we're talking about. You can save £1 million here and there, and not have the stadium you want, or you can think, well, I've got to get that extra million and build the stadium we all want. So what could we build now? What was the first part of the question about the loan? About
if we can't get a loan, what can we afford to build?
Can't. I don't think currently that's not the situation. I don't think we're going to have to proceed in that direction. Hopefully, as I say, things are in our hands to a big extent.
Sure. I have just news come in that the National League North, South and National League itself have suspended football indefinitely as of now. So that makes a lot of sense, because people get very panicky by the word indefinitely. Oh, it's indefinitely. It doesn't mean it's forever. They just don't know when it's going to come back. So the word
no end date.
Yeah. Indefinitely doesn't mean forever. It just means no one's sure. So let's not keep saying, 30th of April, we'll look at it again. No, don't look at it again. Just wait until things are, slightly more clear. So that is live news. National League North, National League South is suspended indefinitely.
So
now then,
we have one last question from YouTube from Mark Hendricks.
I was going to do a game.
Mark Hendricks wants to know if you are reusing your cups.
What?
He wants to know, is Graham reusing his cups?
No, George, we heard you, but what?
I have no idea. I'm just...
Is this on video? Is this being broadcast? Everyone's seeing this?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No, we can't see what you're seeing.
I got my... Look, just in case Nick was here, he's not here, but...
An actual teapot?
Yes.
A China teapot.
And that's a mug, and yes, I reuse it. I wash it,
Yeah, that's good.
Good Lord, the teapot, we've not using that.
In fact, look, no plastic, old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned bottle.
Vintage bottle. Don't get them often, but...
This is weird, because it's 21st century technology, and yet we're looking into the 70s with your shirt and your teapot. It's a fantastic insight into your life.
Right, Kevin, don't insult the guests.
No, I'm not insulting the guest. I like his shirt. It's a great shirt. It's very nice. Very nice. It looks like pink iris. Is that an iris?
It's Hawaiian flowers.
It's Hawaiian flowers.
And for those listeners who are watching in black and white.
Yeah.
Yes, Graham is in the pink. Okay, right, now, we do have some games to play, so we're going to play one now. So, guys, this is for everybody who is on the show, except me, because I've devised it. And everyone listening, please do get involved in this. So, send in on YouTube, only on YouTube, send us who you think the answer to this question is. So, this is our game of Paul Os Who, in which I will give you, in round one, 5 footballers who are all linked to a footballer who has played for either Wimbledon or AFC Wimbledon. Okay, so there's your clue. He's played for Wimbledon's football club.
Okay.
He has played with all 5 of these players. The second round will be 2 managers he's played under, and the third round will be a clue, which might give it away, although I love this clue. I didn't know this about him. I just thought... it was one of those things I thought I knew, and I checked and it was right. So, this is I like this quiz. I'm happy with this one. So, you 3 lovely people join in, and everybody who's listening in, please join in and answer the question if you can, via YouTube. So, This player has played with the following professional footballers during his career: Tom Sawers, Colin Hendry, Disco Dale Gordon, that's not his real name, Dale Gordon, Patrick Adjumang, and Mal Donaghy.
He's played with Mal Donaghy, isn't
Yes.
he?
He played with Tom Sawers, Colin Hendry, Dale Gordon, Patrick Adjumang, and Mal Donaghy. So, George, are you monitoring you two or mine? Do we have anyone who think it's not West Ham? No, it's not West Ham. Thank you. Everyone who's guessing West Ham, it's not Kidderminster. Thank you, Mark.
Who's Dale Gordon? Can we start with that?
Yes.
Might know.
Now, we do have the thing that the reusable cups was in your manifesto for the Don's Trust board, Graham. I do remember that because I interviewed you for it. That is why the cups is coming up. No,
More reusable glasses at the bar. But
there we go.
yes, I reuse my cup.
Chris, who do you think this player might be that I've quizzed you on?
If I was to go with the first guess, I would say Neil Sullivan.
That would be an incorrect guess.
Oh, okay.
Graham?
Stand corrected, Superman.
I'm trying to figure out who these players are. Colin Hendry.
You don't know who Colin Hendry is?
I know he is. Mal Donaghy, wasn't he like I don't. Yeah, Man United, Luton, something.
Luton, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. Right. Okay.
You might have played for Man United as well, but it's certainly Luton. Yeah. Tom Sawers, Tom Sawers.
Okay, so I will go for I can't remember his name. Jeff, centre midfielder for Crystal Palace. Jeff.
No, because it's a Wimbledon player.
My name's Jeff.
Oh yeah.
The answer is a Wimbledon player
Yes.
or AFC player.
Yes, so definitely not a Palace player.
Definitely not Jeff. So the only guesses we've had from the listeners is Kidderminster and West Ham.
Jason Newell. Jason Newell.
That's wrong.
Jason Newell is a much better guess, but no.
Oh.
George.
I have got absolutely no idea. I'll say John Hartson, but I'm fairly certain that's wrong.
You're correct in it being wrong. You are correct is being wrong. Yes. Now then, we do have any other guesses? We don't have any other guesses.
Dean Holdsworth.
No.
Oh.
Right, not. We do have a. Actually, that's a good guess. I don't know how you pronounce this person's
Piggies.
name. It's Piggy H-N. Piggies? It's P-I-G-G-E-H-Z. Whoever you are, thank you for taking part. And they, because I don't know whether they're male or female in these times of gender fluidity, the guess is Mick Harford. That is a good guess. It's wrong, but in terms of, I'm going to say that's a good guess. So Gary Fletcher has also guessed Mick Harford, so no, Gary. If it wasn't Mick Harford for the other person, it can't be Mick Harford for you. Fantastic! I love the delay. So the signal is getting to Hampshire a lot sort of slower. No, it's not Mick Harford. So if anyone wants to guess again, please don't guess Mick Harford.
West Ham.
Or West Ham, or Kidderminster, or Jason Newell, or Neil Sullivan. But anyway, so now we believe we have our first guest. Do we have our guest on the line, George?
We will in a minute.
Ah, good.
Here we go. We should be joined momentarily.
Satellite delay, everyone, satellite delay.
So we do have a guest. He played with Patrick Aubameyang. No, he didn't play with Patrick Aubameyang. It's not a person. He played with Patrick Adjumang. Good grief. Rob Tuvey is there.
Where are we?
We can't hear him,
Yes,
but we
we
can
can.
see him nodding. Can you speak, Rob? Oh, you can speak. Excellent. Hello, Rob.
How are you? You okay?
We're all fine, thank you. So we've been joined by Rob Tuvey, who is the club's under-18 manager. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking your time
No problem.
to join us on this extraordinary haphazard show. We are. So, do you want to join in the quiz?
Yeah, I've been listening. I think I've got a few guesses. Here.
People know you as the under-18s manager, but you're a lifelong Wimbledon fan, which makes it even more exciting to have you on. So, do you want to have a guess then? Go on, Rob.
I've got Michael Hughes.
Oh, that's good.
Is the correct answer.
Is it really?
Hughes is the correct answer.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
The first person to solve it in round one for some time.
Yeah.
Rob Tuvey,
my favourite Wimbledon player.
I didn't know that. So, would you like to know? Here we go. So that he played with Tom Sawes at Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
He played with Mal Donaghy for Northern Ireland. Only played with him 4 times, but anyway. Played with Patrick Adjemang at Wimbledon, of course. Played with Disco Del Gordon at West Ham. And Colin Hendry at Manchester City. The other clues would have been his 2 managers who played under. I was going to go with Laurie McMenemy, which would have made people think he was Southampton or Sunderland, and Gilbert Gress, which would have put people off the scent completely. But he was, of course, at Strasbourg after he left Man City. And the clue which would have given it away was that Michael Hughes was the first British footballer to move on a free transfer under the Bosman ruling.
What a sin.
There you go. How good is that? That's
Nice.
what I thought I knew that, and then I discovered that I did know it. Anyway, so there you go. So you've not, please don't think, Rob, that you've ruined the game by getting it right.
I was going to say sorry about that.
But you have got it right. No, it's great. No one's got it right. Excellent. So Mark Hendricks says, "Well done, Rob. What a shout!" So you've impressed a man in Switzerland. So
thank you very much.
Joy of the beauty of YouTube, James.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Rob, and goodbye. So people are still guessing. Dominic Francis is still guessing. No, it's not Chris Wilmot and it's not Kelvin Davies because it's Michael Hughes, Dominic. Because Rob's got it right. But please do keep sending your guesses in. Not Oyvind Leonardson, it's still Michael Hughes. Anyway, fine. So, Rob, let's move on from this hilariously haphazard quiz. So thank you for getting that right. So welcome to the show. Firstly, how are you coping with the current inactivity? Because obviously you're not just an academy coach, you're a very fit person as well. How are you coping with sitting around doing nothing as we are?
Yeah, no, it's frustrating. It's more frustrating not seeing and working with the boys every day. That's the biggest frustration, I think, for all us academy coaches at the moment is sort of stop their development. But there's other ways we can develop them, and we've sort of tried to tap into different areas of development during this time, really.
So we spoke with Mark Robinson last week. Have you got different plans for each player? That's slightly tweaked for certain things. I'm not being rude to any players. Is there 1 or 2 players who are more likely to put on a bit more weight than others during this gap? Are there naming any certain players that you haven't got to tell them what to do, they'll just do it, but other ones might need a bit more sort of coaching and doing the right thing?
Yeah, I don't think it's so much of the weight thing. I think more it's tailoring to where they are. So some boys have returned from injury, some boys have played Saturday, Tuesday for the past month, for example. So it's just more tailoring their programme. I've got a really good team behind me with Will Rose and Jenna Richards, and they've really put together a great physical plan for the boys that's tailored to the individuals as well. Yeah, we've been very lucky though. Like we've been on webinars with the boys, and we've been seeing them every Tuesday and Friday on webinars like this, and it's been really good. Today they had a cooking challenge with Will, so we got them up nice and early, doing a little cooking challenge, making some breakfast and that. So it's just tapping into different ways and making sure that the life of a footballer they're still living. And when we do come out of this, that we're ready to carry on the campaign, and if they're called upon by the gaffer, that they're ready. Because
it's frustrating for everybody on earth, we understand this, but for looking at just it's a microcosm of society, our under-18 footballers, best season that an AFC Wimbledon under-18 season's ever had, I think. Top of the league, you're in the Youth Alliance Cup final. It's just so frustrating. They've done such a great job, and now they're not going to be... If you don't win the league for some reason, you lose a few games and lose the cup final, it's disappointing. But at least they've actually played the final. They've done the league season. This is like curtailing. It's must be difficult for them to take in at such a young age.
Yeah, they've had a really good season. We've got a really good group of boys, and I was very lucky to inherit a good squad by James and Robbo, and that was really, really good to see. But yeah, it's frustrating, but it's part and parcel of football in a strange way. I don't think we'll ever see a situation like this, but we've just got to keep our mentality high, and we've got to make sure that if we do get put out there, we're ready, and we just keep performing how we have all season. Yeah,
so how are you keeping... I know you understand keeping the players fit and doing this cooking thing, that sounds like a great idea. How are you preparing them mentally? Because it must be, because it's hard for all of us. No one knows what to say. I've got 2 kids. Luckily, they're both adults, but you don't know what to say. This has never happened before to anybody. Yeah. So, are you having to also be a bit of a mentor to them mentally, as well as just being their football manager? You're being a bit more than that.
Yeah, there's constant like phone calls, and the webinars have really helped. What it allowed us to do is get a few speakers in. So we've got ex-Olympians that have spoke to the boys, and will carry on to speak to the boys. We've got Darius Charles, who's going to come into a webinar and speak to the boys about what he's gone through and his time at Wimbledon. Some martial arts, people from different sporting backgrounds, really, just to give them a bit of an insight into different things out there, really. And the boys have been sort of talking on our WhatsApp groups, sharing what books they're reading, what podcasts they're listening to, and stuff like that. Today, for example, they was with the PFA, and they had a mental health talk with the PFA. So there's loads of resources out there for these young boys, and it's just about tapping into them and looking outside of the bubble of football and recognising that there's other things out there. We do get caught up on a day-to-day in this bubble of being footballers, but really we try and get them to look outside of that and look away from it. So Jack Medlin, you may have seen online, has tried to come up with a new physical programme for people out there. That's sort of a little business idea that he's thinking of for the future.
Yeah, I saw that.
And we encourage that sort of thing, because football, a career, only lasts for a certain amount of time. They need to think outside the box, and they need to get ready, especially in times like this when mental health is so important.
Yeah, because I was thinking, this is a bit kind of like when say a player's injured for 3 months and they're on their own at home, they don't see their teammates. This is kind of like everybody's injured at the same time. So you've got that, at least you've got the kind of thing where everyone's going through the same thing. It's not one player missing out, everyone's missing out. I guess it might help in some ways. They can share the same experiences.
Yeah, definitely. We've got quite a close-knit squad, so the biggest thing is trying to get them online twice a week just to keep that togetherness there. So, for example, Mark Robinson put in the group the other day just a little quiz against the first team staff, and that sort of really brought everyone together again. It got conversation flowing, a little bit of banter going, and sometimes that's what we need, just to try and get through, because obviously the days seem a little bit longer at the moment, and we don't know where this is going to end. But yeah, it's just trying to think outside the box, really, and making sure that they're still on task, and that they don't come away from the bigger picture, which is this is still a process to trying to get a pro.
Yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned that. I'll bring George and Chris in a minute, but we had Terrell Thomas on the show yesterday. It was great. He did fall asleep in the first 10 minutes of the show, but it's fine. We didn't say a lot against it. But he was saying that, because we said when you're watching the under-18s and you spot a couple of good players coming through, are you like you know they're going to come and be part of the first team squad? And he said no, because we're all part of the same thing anyway. We don't have the first team and the under-18s. It's one big bunch of people all working together. And so when they do come to the first team squad, they do make that step up. They've not got to introduce themselves to the players. They know them all. Other clubs, the under-18s train in a different place, different town even. Don't eat with them. Here, our club, everyone eats together. So you know the under-18s before they come in. It helps them settle in. I hadn't thought of that. It's a great idea, because it just feels like you're part of something. Just become more part of it.
Yeah, no, we're very lucky. Very lucky that obviously since the gaffer's come in, he's brought everything together a lot more. I think having Robbo with the first team has really helped, and it's allowed conversations to really flow and allowed everyone within the building to feel a part of something. And so it's been really good. Obviously, the boys regularly go and train with the first team. When the first team are travelling, if there's a few coming back from injuries, first team players will come and train with the under-18s, and it just allows that togetherness to build throughout the first team and the under-18s as well.
Okay. Chris, you got a question for Rob?
A boring interview style question for you, Rob. How did you get the job?
I think if you look through everything, Michael Hamilton plays a massive part. When Michael Hamilton seems to get promoted and things, then I seem to do all right. But obviously, with Mark going up to the first team, there was a space available at under-18s, and it was just right in the development pathway for me and James Oliver Pierce. James now gets to lead a phase and manage a bigger operation in terms of, I think he's got about 40, 50 boys to look after now. And for my pathway, I wanted to work with older players, and Mark and Michael thought it was the right time for me to sort of take on the under-18s.
Nice.
Okay, thanks. One thing we did forget, and I apologise for this, I've kind of missed out a small step in the agenda that we have for this. So we're going to take a tiny little break, only because when we have our guest on, we ask them to name a song that they'd like to hear. And thank God, Rob, you've chosen not only a song that I like and know and possess, it's got guitars in it. It's the first... We did have Kenny Rogers. Was it Anthony Wordsworth chose a Kenny Rogers song? That was okay. Some of the stuff we've had on, Jack Rodoni's song was horrific, although what we had on earlier on as a theme tune made it sound like Stairway to Heaven. So, Rob, would you like to introduce George? Have you got it queued up?
Yes.
Have you got it queued up?
Yes.
He has got it queued up. So, Rob, would you like
this is
your song?
So this is Oasis, Half the World Away.
I would like to leave this city. This old town don't smell too pretty, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. And when I leave this island, I book myself into a soul asylum, 'cause I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. So here I go, I'm still scratching around in the same old hole. My body feels young, but my mind is very old. So what do you say? You can't give me the dreams that are mine anyway. Half the world away, half the world away, half the world away. I've been lost, I've been found, but I don't feel down. And when I leave this planet, you know I'd stay, but I just can't stand it. And I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. And if I could leave this spirit, I'll find me a hole and I'll live in it. And I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. Here I go, I'm still scratching around in the same old hole. My body feels young, but my mind is very old. So what do you say? You can't give me the dreams that are mine anyway.
That was Rob Tuvey's song. Thank you, Rob, for restoring some sanity, as a musical sanity. That Mark Hendricks has messaged us on YouTube. Thanks, Rob. Just spent the entirety of serving up dinner singing along. So there you go. Which is a much nicer thing he said than what he said about Jack Dummies.
Well, I had to get the Academy's reputation back after Mark's song the other day, which I'd never heard of. So yeah, we had to get that back.
Yeah, that was okay. The Beatles version is slightly better. But a question I have for you, Rob. Again, I'm not going to ask you to name any names here at all. But let's say you are watching a under-12s game, not Wimbledon side, under-12s match, and there's two players that you spot and think these two have got something about them. What would make you, and their abilities are exactly the same, identical abilities, what would make you choose one over the other? Are you looking at temperament? Are you looking at how they fit in socially? Are you looking at parents? Are you looking at where they live? What kind of parameters do you have for selecting a player that you think is going to be perfect for your teams in the future?
It's quite a tough question. It all depends on sort of positions. Obviously, within the academy, we have position-specific roles around and what we're looking for an age-specific sort of role. So that's quite tough. I think what we're looking for is what any Wimbledon player should have, which is like hardest working, looking to communicate, looking to like just constantly want the ball. Constantly knowing what his next picture is and stuff like that. Really, I think it's quite a broad question as such, because obviously from 12s up we're looking more position specific as such. So if you're a centre half, can you head it? Can you defend in behind, for example, which is tough at times because it depends what the opposition are doing. But yeah, it's always trying to look at them core traits of a Wimbledon player, of working hard and knowing that they're up for the fight. Basically, that's the main thing that we're looking for when we're recruiting. And are they a good learner? Can they take the information that the coach is giving them? That's really, really important to us.
So. I was going to say, so you're looking at players that you've currently got now, and you've seen how many of the last season under-18s are coming in, first team squad at least. The players you've got now, they've had this fantastic season, got the cup final, top of the league. Especially what George tells us, this is a very special group of players. It must be difficult, I guess, at this stage, knowing that you've got, say, 16, 17 special kids. Maybe only 4 or 5 are going to make it. That's a good year, isn't it? So how do you, as their coach, how do you kind of prepare them for not necessarily life outside football, but life somewhere else? Because some of them have been there since they were 9 or 10.
Yeah, no, it's just about every individual. All we can do is develop the individual every day, and hopefully the first team take a liking to them and they see their potential. That's the biggest thing for us. And if they don't and they have to go and move on somewhere else, we still celebrate that because we still develop them. So you look at Asazi and the interview that went round on social media, we're very proud of that, because that we feel that our developing of him as a person has sort of helped him within that interview. So that's something that we still celebrate. And there's boys that have gone out there, so Will Mannion, for example, at Hull, we still celebrate that because he's still a big part of his development come from us. We've got Joe Bursett, the same on loan at Accrington at the moment. That's fantastic for him. And there's loads of boys out there that have moved on to other clubs. But if we can just play that small part within their development programme, whether that be socially, physically, technically, tactically, then we celebrate that as an academy. And I think that, of course, our main objective is to get them in a Wimbledon shirt and get them out there playing. But also, if we see them playing league football or even conference football, then we celebrate that as well.
Yeah, because you look at that successful team, I suppose you've got the most successful under-18 since the 2016 bunch that got to the quarterfinals. It was the quarterfinals of the Youth Cup, wasn't it? Lost to Chelsea home, they beat Newcastle, beat Watford. But you look at that side, and I was wrong, because we were chatting about that with some friends of mine. We named the 4 players we thought would make it from that squad into the first team, and none of them are still with the club. And you kind of think, well, what happened? You look at someone like Alfie Egan. At that stage, he was looking a really, really good player. Now, had lately been on the bench at a team in the bottom 4 of the National League. but at least he's still playing. There's other players that don't seem to be playing. It's a shame that they drop off. There's no kind of like catchment. My son's friend was at Fulham and looking very, very good. Something happened, got cast away, doesn't play at all. You think it's such a shame. He could easily be playing top level non-league football. He could be playing the Premier, whatever.
I think with that sort of thing, it's all circumstance as well. At the time, if you think about it, I'm sure that if you sat down with other managers out there, they may have thought differently about them boys. And I think that what's really important is that football is a game of opinions, and everyone will have different opinions. And that there is some boys out there that I do think had more talent and potentially wasn't given the chance that they should have got at the time. But however, that's my opinion. That's just something that I believe at the time. And I think that there's boys in the squad that we've got at the moment who are very talented, and as long as they can keep that mentality and they don't see knockbacks as the end. That's the biggest thing. Knockbacks can also lead to other things and can keep going. So I'll go back to Asazi. He got a knockback and has used it positively to go and kick on, and hopefully is going to get a career out of it.
Well, that interview you mentioned, we talked about it twice, or it's the third time that interview's been mentioned in our 6 shows, because it's so refreshing to see a young kid who's so excited to play a game of football. It's great to watch, because you think that's how we'd feel, but I know the players get so much media, I know ours don't necessarily. You get so much media training, they say the right thing, they compliment the other team, they say all the privileges, on how they were, we work hard, blah, 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 it's a hard team. Yeah, we know this. But he was just kind of like, I can't believe I've played a game of football. It's just extraordinary to watch a young kid doing what he wants to do. It's brilliant. It's so refreshing. So I know I've played a part in that. So it's great to see. George, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, we've got a question from social media from Zach Thompson coming from the US. He wants to know what age can you roughly tell if a player's going to be able to move on into the first team? How soon can you tell?
It depends with ages. I think if you look at stature, for example, if you look at Zach Robinson at the moment, he's gone on loan and played men's football and scored a lot of goals and sort of proven himself more and more that he can go and play men's football. I think there's other boys like Elliot Bolton who may need a little bit more time. But that's not to say that he's not good enough for the future. But his development programme may be two years before he's ready to play in the first team. I think that you've got to take each case as they come, really, and each individual as they come.
Yeah, and
cool.
Just a comment from myself, really. Looking at it this year, some of the players, like you mentioned, Zach Robinson, Jack Madlin, have graduated from the 18s to the first team. Hussein Belair has really impressed me playing with the under-23s this season. And it's just a question of really what age, I mean, that was talking about the main teams, but how is it selected, which players go up to play for Robbo, playing for the under-23s, and how beneficial is it for the players that that pathway from, 16s to 18s to 23s to first team is much clearer now than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant to have Robbo there because it's a relationship that you can go and be quite honest with. Robbo speaks to me daily and obviously gets to watch the boys daily. So if they're performing in training, then they get the opportunity with the 23s. If they're performing in games, they get the opportunity. But I think the biggest thing that we've done this year is bringing in the loan system. I think that's been the best thing that we've done because what it's allowed us to do, some of these 23 games end up being glorified under 18s games a lot of the time. So what it's allowed us to do is get boys out on loan and take them out their comfort zone and really test them in men's football. And we're seeing the benefits from it all the time. If I look at Ivor Sal, who many would have thought is not ready for men's football, he's gone out and proven at the moment that he is ready for men's football and that he can perform at that stage and that. And now me and Robbo are sitting down at the moment and we're trying to plan the next year's loans and where we're going to go and can we get even higher? Can we look to push into that Conference South, Conference National bracket for boys to go on loan and really try and close the gap between our loanees and the first team?
Yeah. So Graham, Stacey from the Don's Trust Board still with us. Graham, have you got any questions for Rob?
Well, we were just chatting about what I found fascinating because we don't know when the season started. How do you, with the pre-season and was saying about keeping them ticking over, which I think was worth sort of mentioning to listeners. How you keep them ticking because we don't know if it's a 4-week pre-season or 6 weeks. So, but they are ticking over and they're ready to go. You've got plans in place, you were saying.
Yeah, so myself and Will Rose, we've sat down together and we've sort of planned with James Oliver Pierce as well with the 16s that we've got a 6-week programme ready in case we come back and it is pre-season. We've got 5-week, 4-week, 3-week, 2-week, 1 week. So whatever's thrown at us by the football league to say, right, you're ready to go again, we've got plans in place for that. So yeah, we're just planning sort of intensities of sessions when we come back, and that's what the tailored session that they've got at the moment, which is probably about a 2-month plan, up to a 2-month plan at the moment, is all around just keeping them ticking over. So and getting the rest and recovery right, so when they are back, they're refreshed and they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm. What if it said, 2 weeks, first game in 2 weeks, behind closed doors or whatever? Would you be ready to go, or is that too soon?
I think we might. I think yeah. If we can get them into train, then yeah. But to be honest, the boys, we as an academy, we run under like a self-managing athlete program that Michael and Mark have brought in, and this is where it's really helped us. This sort of situation that we've been thrown in now, it's all about the boys managing themselves and making sure that whatever time is they're coming back, they have to start managing their program now to make sure that mentally they're prepared, to make sure that physically they're prepared. So there's a lot of emphasis on the boys taking ownership of their own development at this stage, and that goes throughout the season with us. So it's nothing new to them in a roundabout way, really.
Okay. Thank you for that. I've got a question for you. This is not about the academy at all. So you mentioned at the start of your joined us that you're a Wimbledon fan. So when did you start coming, and how did you become a Wimbledon fan? We've all got our little stories of how we ended up at Plough Lane or Kings Meadow or Sellers Pie. How did you become a Wimbledon fan in the first place?
I think it's just my parents really taking me to soccer schools when I was younger, and ending up at Richards and Evans, sort of going to soccer schools and seeing the likes of Kenny Cunningham and Vinnie Jones walking in, and I think then sort of you get free tickets off the back of that, and I sort of become a Wimbledon fan from there. I just fell in love with it. I think like watching the likes of Vinnie Jones and Michael Hughes and that, you fall in love with it, and once you watch your first game, I think that becomes your attachment, that team that you go and watch. And so I had a season ticket at Sellers Park, and then obviously when everything happened, had a season ticket all the way through really until probably about 4 or 5 years ago, probably longer than that actually, when I started obviously getting tickets through work. But yeah, sort of didn't really miss many home or away games from combined counties all the way through to sort of probably Conference South. That's when sort of work started kicking in. But would go home and away and really enjoyed it as much as I can, really.
So what's your first game?
First game?
First Wimbledon game?
Was Wimbledon, Sheffield Wednesday, I think, at Sellers Park. I think we won 4-2.
Oh, yeah. Remember that game? What year was that, George?
97.
Yeah.
96, 97 when we went. That was one of our 7 deadly wins.
Yeah,
it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Yes, you're right. Mm-hmm. It's in the video, isn't it? That's why I knew that. It's in the video. These 7 deadly wins. Because I thought today was an anniversary in my Wimbledon fanship, but I've been proved wrong, because I thought today was the 42nd anniversary of my first Wimbledon game, and it's not. I missed it by about 10 days. So 4 days ago, so last Friday was the 42nd anniversary of my second Wimbledon game, which is not, it's like being the 14th man on the moon. Absolutely pointless anniversary. But my first one, 3-1 win against Bournemouth in March the 11th, I think we said, 1978, and the next time I went was against Rochdale 2 weeks later, a 5-1 win. So I started in good fashion. Has anyone got any more questions for Rob before we plunge him headfirst into our ridiculous game?
Oh no, let's have a game.
George, anything else?
No, let's have a game.
Rob? Okay, we're going to do a game, Rob. Now, I apologise for this in advance. This is an either-or game, okay? So some of the answers are yes or no, and some of them is just a choice between 2 things, okay? First thing that comes into your head, there are 10 questions. Only one of them has a correct answer, okay? And it's the 10th one. I'll give you a clue. So are you ready to come up with your answers?
Yep.
Ready? Okay. Void the season or continue the season?
Continue the season.
VAR, yes or no?
No.
Natalie Sawyer or Kirsty Gallagher?
Kirsty Gallagher.
Talking of Gallagher's, Noel or Liam?
No.
Taylor Swift or Trailer Swift?
Taylor Swift.
Okay. Reading or writing?
Reading.
Kingsmeadow or Plough Lane?
Plough Lane.
This is a historical question. Apple or banana?
Banana.
Alan Kimball or Ben Thatcher?
Ben Thatcher.
And finally, when you're making tea, do you put the bag in first or the milk in first?
Bag in first.
Is the correct answer. I'm glad you got that right. I was tense for a second there. I was just seeing Nick Draper, obviously not with us, just panicking that you were going to say milk first. So, do we have anything else for Rob? Because we've taken a lot of Rob's time up. Would you like to stay with us, Rob? You're going to go make dinner now. You can stay with us.
I can stay with. Yeah, I can stay with you.
Stay with
Yeah,
us.
of
Then.
course.
Why don't you stay with us? Excellent. Now then, so everyone, I think we should applaud Rob. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Insightful
No
answers.
problem at all. Thank you for having me.
Good to get to know you. Thanks so much indeed. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. Cheers.
Come on, everyone. I'm the only person clapping.
I was clapping.
Yeah, we
are,
were.
didn't we? Oh, okay. Fine.
You just can't see me clap. That's what you're.
No, you've not got. So the listeners don't know that we actually have our video on, so we can all see each other, except Chris, who hasn't.
It's meant to be working.
A picture. Oh, of course you are. Yes, he's actually working. He's not actually with us at all. That's not Chris Draper. Do we have our other guest, George?
Yes, we should do. He is just joining.
There he is. So moving on from Rob. Rob's staying with us. So we're now testing our Wi-Fi. Now we're having 6 people online at the same time. So our next guest is Matthew Couper. You may remember some time ago, a few years ago, a play was written called A Fans Club that charted how our club came to be. That was Matt's play. It was performed. It was very good. Everyone loved it. It was a fantastic bit of work. It's now being rewritten. Who's talking in the background? Moving on to Rob, hear your conversation. That's fine. Our Wi-Fi now we're having 6 people. Oh, it's me. I can hear myself.
Yes, I believe Matthew is listening to us on YouTube whilst on the phone to us.
Appears to be on a delay.
Yes.
But
Could Matthew not listen to us on YouTube at the same time? We can all hear me twice. Once is more than enough for most people.
It's like Eurovision.
It is exactly. So Matthew is now hard at work on version 2, the update, version 2.0 of the Fans Club. And what, of course, the issue is now is that we're not in a position to perform it.
I can just say Matthew about to be told to turn off.
Yes. Now, so if you could do that, that'd be great. Anyway, so Matthew Couper joined us live from wherever Matthew lives. I don't know where Matthew lives. Whereabouts are you, Rob? Roughly.
I'm in Sutton.
Sutton. Oh, okay. I'm only Croydon.
Somebody has to be, I suppose.
Yeah. Chris will laugh at everyone in South London. Matthew is there. Hello, Matthew.
You were on mute, Matthew. If you can unmute yourself,
Matthew.
There should be an icon in the bottom left corner.
It takes a bit of getting used to, I'm not going to lie. But
Yes. If you can unmute
There we go.
yourself.
I'm here now, and hello everybody. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. No one wants to hear me once, but everyone can hear me twice, which is a bit tricky. Anyway, Matthew, thank you for coming on, and giving us your time. So, yes, you were the playwright. You can't say author. I'm going to say author, although it's not correct. The playwright for A Fans Club. You wrote that play. It's fantastic stuff. Everyone enjoyed that. Just charting the history of how AFC Wimbledon came to be. What drove you to write an update? We're now on version 2. I'll talk a bit more about it, but how did you get to that point where you think, right, I want to update this play? Why now?
I was actually talking to just Peter Lynch last year from the Wimbledon History Group, and we were talking about going back to Plough Lane, and we should do something about this. So the idea was to do the play again for this year to celebrate us going back to Plough Lane.
Yeah.
Of course, now with what's going on, I've got a little bit more time on hands to get that done.
So explain.
Is there something going on?
Apparently, there is something going on.
I missed something. I don't know.
So explain for some people. Maybe maybe they didn't go and see. I can't believe there are Wimbledon fans who did go and see the play. Can you briefly explain the play and how it works? Because the new version is almost like a complete rewrite. It's certainly a new format. Can you tell us what's different?
Yeah. So the first time I did it, let's use theatre here to explain this. So the first time I did it, I was kind of thinking I'd like to produce something which was a bit like Jerry Springer the Opera. You know, so we'd have some story in it, but we'd have some music with it as well. They kind of bring it to life like that. And the first time it was great. It was at the Wimbledon Studio Theatre, and I would turn up each night, and there'd be a sold out sign outside the theatre each night, and it was great. So on that side of it, and all the Wimbledon fans were loving it. It was a bit of a hoot. Critically, there were some interesting comments, but
ignore them.
The Wimbledon fans and the local press loving it, so that was great. And then the following year, I updated it a bit more, but again, it was sort of like a bigger cast. And the idea was to do it at Wimbledon Theatre in the main house, which was brilliant. That was really good fun. And then I took it up to Edinburgh, which was an interesting experience. It got some really nice reviews, and there's some lovely things that happened through that. And then it's kind of like gone to sleep for all that time. And so now I just wanted to bring it back to celebrate the fact we're going back to Plough Lane, but I've stripped it right down. So as opposed to being like Jerry Springer the Opera, those who know theatre, things like Stones in His Pockets or the Lehman Brothers trilogy, where it's a much smaller cast who are taking on multiple roles, and that's kind of the way I wanted to do it. So that's kind of what's changed. So this time round, it will be a two-hander.
So it's like Waiting for Godot, but about football.
Yeah, that's exactly the bracket I'm putting myself in. Exactly like that. Yes.
Or it was a Tom Stoppard play. Is it Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead? That's got three people, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That is the names that I'm associated with. It's exactly that. Samuel Beckett,
Beckett, Tom Stoppard, Matthew Couper. No, I think it's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's lovely. So the bottom line of this is that, listeners, I've been reading this with Matt over the internet over the last week or so. We've been going through it and just looking at how it works. It's great. It just brings back so many memories. I'm actually mentioned in it once, which is very kind of Matt. It just brings back so many memories of 2002, of just all the things you talk about, all the things that the characters discuss. Obviously, there's many characters in it that are all played by two people. We had a good read through in January at the House Theatre in Wimbledon. That was great fun. One of your friend, I can't remember, is his name Jez?
Jez he was reading the second bit to you. Yeah, there was you and Jez who were reading. Yeah,
we had a read through of it with one of Matthew's friends, and we had a small audience. Dean Parsons was there, Luke Carton-Kelly, and Peter Bowles. Other people were there. Great fun. Really enjoyed that. And but the memories were extraordinary, because I got the tram home, and stuff just kept coming back to me that I remembered from 2002 that I'd completely forgotten or I'd put behind me. I think when we get the chance to actually have this play performed and people will go along and watch it, it just brings back so many memories. I think you might not get the reaction on the day, but you'll get it 2 or 3 days later when people go, oh God, I remember that, or that. It's redolent. It's very, very what's the word? Poignant as well, because there's lots of disappointments in it. Let's be fair.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a story of a group of fans who took on the establishment and lost. But we won as well. Yeah. So and I think what I wanted to do is include some of the messaging that was coming out at that time. You really have to take a step back and look at what we all went through as fans. I mean, it was horrendous. Some of the things that we were being told all the way through was just so awful, and there was just we were lied to on such a basis and treated really badly, patronised, and I kind of wanted to get that across, and the fact that we just didn't give up. It's like, and look at us now. This is incredible. Yeah. It is absolutely incredible to go from the moments where we were in the stands protesting to then having our club taken away from us, and then playing football effectively in a field, to now going back to a 9,000 all-seat stadium. Think about that. In what, however many years it's been.
Yeah, 18 years.
18 years. It's crazy.
It is. But it's the kind of thing that if it hadn't happened, you wouldn't put it in a play because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that you could make a play about it, but they wouldn't believe you. No.
It is true. And the whole thing, so my whole play just focuses on really a year. And in that year, we've gone from fighting to setting up a new club.
Yeah.
It's incredible to just to take that whole year.
But the two main characters who kind of plot the play, they're the kind of central characters. Forgive me, they appear to be based on more than one person each. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is, it's where do you go with this? Do you base it around a single person? And if so, who is that person? But for me, it was like, this is a fans club. So the two characters, if you like, are fictional. But they are amalgamation of all the conversations and different bits of history that have happened. So, they kind of anchor the play, but then you do get to see and hear from those individuals. So, Nicole Hammond, Luke Kelly, Chris Stewart, they all make an appearance.
Yeah.
They all make an appearance. They're all referenced in. But the fact is, these two characters, they are kind of like the combination of all of the fans I've spoken to, and that people went through personally. People gave up, sacrificed an awful lot, as people still are today.
Yeah, indeed. So, Graham, have you got any questions for Matt on the?
I didn't see it the first time. I was living abroad. So
you living in Dubai, weren't you? Of course, yeah.
I'm gagging to see this. Anything with Chris Stewart in, I'll watch. He's a lovely guy. I realise he's not technically in it, but I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Well, my hope is that we'll get it on sometime this year. We were looking at July, but that's probably not going to happen. So, sometime later in the year, I'd like to do it. Sooner rather than later, because the whole idea is to try and get it on before before we go back to Plough Lane. But we'll see.
Where are you looking at putting it on?
We were talking to the Wimbledon Studio Theatre, but it's just practicalities of that and cost also is quite difficult. So we're probably going to look at the Colour House, which is a lovely theatre in Colliers Wood. It's a 70-seater theatre right near Colliers Wood, and it's kind of like where our fan base is as well. And so I'd like to do it there.
Cool.
Perfect. So if anyone doesn't know, it's part of the Merton Abbey Mills complex, isn't it? Which used to be my friend's granddad used to work at the paper mill. There you go. So George, when all this was happening, so the period that Matt's writing about, you were 7 years old, weren't you?
No, in 2002 I was 4.
Yeah, you were 4. Of course, you were.
I was 4 when the club was founded.
Would you see? So, I'm looking at this play, and I've read it about 6-7 times now, but I look at it as a bit of history for me, because I was there for. I didn't do. I wasn't as active as I could have been, but I was there for the whole thing. So, would you look at this play and watch it and just to learn about the history that we were all part of, or are you looking at it as like a? What I'm trying to say, it's like a sporting occasion for you.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. I mean, obviously, people my age, as much as we learn and as much as we try and understand it, anything we can do to try and help gain further understanding of what it was like for all of you guys in 2002, when you were fighting for the future of our club. I think that's why it's important to bring stuff back to make sure that the younger generations of fans and newer fans know what the club has been through and what the fans have been through to get us where we are today. On a similar note, we've got a question on the YouTube page from Zach Thompson, who wants to ask about the international licensing for your show to know if he can put it on in America, because he runs a theatre over there apparently.
I'll see what I can do. I mean, my fees are incredibly expensive, but it would be great. It would be great. Yeah.
We'll discuss that. So we'd have it. So when you do your little write up of the play, at the bottom we've got Wimbledon and then Gary, Indiana. I think that'd be fantastic. So I've just had a thought for Rob Tuvey. How about, Rob, when all this stuff is over and life goes back to approximately something like normal, do you think your
current squad of under 18s, or whenever this happens, and maybe the 17s and 16s should all come along together and watch watch a performance of this play to give them the idea.
I thought you were going to say do the performance. I was going to say,
there's some language in it that the under 17s probably shouldn't take part in, but
Kevin, we're not that old.
Initiate learning, especially the new players. Put them together.
Yeah, no, we're always trying to find different ways of introducing the story to them. So that would be absolutely fantastic, because pre-season is quite heavy. We stay at the training ground in pre-season, and we get a lot of fans in during the time, just to come and sort of explain the history and do a Wimbledon quiz on the history and that. And obviously, I'm trying to ram it down their throats nearly. So no, anyway, that sounds fantastic to try and for the boys to come along and watch the history live, and that more of an interactive sort of way of learning would be brilliant.
Totally. I mean, I think it's important. This time, we didn't do it last time. This time around, we're looking to get it filmed as well. So we want to have a film version of this. I think it is one of those things. If there's any other ways you can share the story with more fans and with players as well. So when players are coming in, if they're able to have a look at this and say, so they get an understanding of what the fans went through, really.
Yeah, definitely. We portray it as the greatest story in football to all the boys. So any ways that we can home in on that even more, like we're really welcome to.
Okay, well let's make that happen when life gets back to normal, and it will, everyone.
Definitely.
At some point, we'll do that. We'll have a special performance for the academy. Is that all right with you, Matt? I'm not asking your permission, Matt. I'm just saying live on the radio, giving away your licensing and everything. This is fantastic. Excellent. Right. Okay, that's great. So, do we have any questions for Matt from anybody? George, other than that one?
No, that is the only online question we've had so far.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, because he was so succinct.
I have a quick one, if I could.
Yeah, go, Chris.
Are you going to use Alan Armstrong again in this one, or is it going to be someone different, or are you just going to write him out now completely? Because that would be nice.
In my ideal world, I would love to do sort of like an online version of it, maybe a radio version of it, and I would love to have Alan Armstrong and Sam West being the people.
That would be brilliant, yeah.
People who read. But so we just need to get hold of them and see what their diaries are like, because it would be wonderful for them to.
Pretty clear for about 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
For the radio one, you never know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they could do it whenever they want. That would work nicely.
Do it like this. It would be bizarre, but
I think it'd be lovely. Right. Well, in that case, Matthew Couper, thank you very much for joining. Oh, by the way, we should ask, of course, how's your brother doing? Again, people may not know, Matthew's brother Niall, again, a very well-known Wimbledon author, has had. You can't think he's upset somebody somewhere. He's had such a run of serious illnesses, and he's come through them all. So, Niall, if you're listening, I hope you'll get him better soon. He's the first person I knew that had COVID-19. He seemed to have come through it. He was on BBC Breakfast the other day talking about it. How is he doing?
Yeah, he's fine. So people who don't know, he wrote the Spirit of Wimbledon book, and the other one. Gosh, the title's good.
This is our time.
This is our time.
Yeah.
So he wrote those, which are great, which are brilliant. Again, another thing to be showing, academy players and new players join the club. But yeah, he's had a really, really rough time. He was last year diagnosed with bladder cancer, and then he's kind of got through that. But he was one of the at-risk groups, so he was in hospital for 5 days, and it was just awful. I mean, I think to a point where he was really thinking about his life, as he says in this BBC interview. So it's really, it's a really horrible thing. It's a really, really, really horrible thing, and it's not just about it's horrible that people are dying with this, but the disease itself is a dreadful, dreadful thing to have. So he was in hospital for 5 days on oxygen for most of that time, but fortunately, he's now back home, and he's on the way to recovery.
Good.
Yeah, he's
excellent. Yeah,
good.
Good to hear it.
You should get him on this. You should have a chat to him.
No, we should. Can you make that happen, Matthew? Talk to him and put us in touch.
I'm totally, of course.
I would love to have him on. It'd be a great.
100%. That would be a great show.
Next week, we're quite good. We've actually booked the next 2 weeks of guests. We've got all sorted out already. However, let's move a guest for Niall. I think that makes a lot of sense. So, Matthew, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Don't go away though, because we do have one final game which we'd like you to take part in. All of you, if that's all right. But by the way, in tomorrow's show, which you don't have me, by the way, you've got George, you've got Nick, and you have Stuart Deakins. Our guests are Callum Riley and Joe Piggott. So, we are getting good guests on this show all the way through. And we've got some good ones for the rest of the week, but it's Callum and Joe on tomorrow. So, we don't have part 2 or part 3 of Paul Oswho, because Rob got it right. We do, however, have a game called the Birthdays Game, in which George Jones of this parish will read out the names of famous people whose birthday is today, and we have to guess how old they are. George, do you have 5 people plus 2 Daily Mirror readers?
Well, due to me being a millennial, I don't have the Daily Mirror, so I've just got the 5 celebrities.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Nick and Stu, we apologise.
Controversial. I will look it up now.
Right, okay. So, listeners, please do take part, but there is a bit of a lag, and so people end up guessing that Elton John was 12 the other week. But anyway, we'll give it a go. So, George, if they've got difficult names, do spell them out for us.
Okay, so the first...
You are in Cornwall, it's a long way.
The first person we're going for is Christopher Walken, the actor.
Matthew, how old do you think Christopher Walken is today?
I'm going 73.
Rob?
I don't know who he is, so I'll go 78.
Chris?
75.
Graham?
69.
You had to lower the tone. I'm going to go 70.
I went in the middle.
That's what she said.
70. Oh. Chris, no. Look, if anyone's got a tone, can they please raise it? Okay, so that's our guesses. George, who was the nearest?
Okay, the nearest was in fact Rob Tuvey. He is 77.
Was he really?
Yes.
77. Grief. Rob Tuvey was 1-0 to Rob. Okay, George, who is next?
Next up is the actor Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor. Matthew?
47.
Rob?
53.
Chris?
Bit prices right. I think he's 46.
Okay. Graham?
I was going 46. What did Rob say? I'll just copy him because he wins all these.
53.
Oh, I'll go 52 then.
I'm going to go 48.
Okay, so
George?
the winner of this round is Kevin, who is 1 year out. He is 49.
Wow. Looks good for 49, doesn't it? Let's be fair.
Yes.
If you are that age, don't grow a beard because you look older, and I know that's a bad idea.
Well, you tried that in the Star Wars trilogy, didn't you?
I wouldn't know. I've only seen the first one, which
Yeah,
I thought was the first one. Now it's the 19th one. I don't know. The original one.
Yes, I know the one you mean. But that
I
was when it
didn't-
was Alec Guinness and not Ewan McGregor.
Yes, but I only saw that film for the first time in November 2018. So thank you very much. Never saw it at the time.
Anyway, we
George.
digress.
Okay, so next up is US politician and climate activist Al Gore.
Al Gore. Okay. Let's do the opposite way. We'll do a different way. Al Gore. I'm going to say Al Gore is 71 today. Graham?
69.
Oh,
Chris?
63.
Rob?
72.
And Matthew?
67.
Okay. George?
Right, it's a repeat winner. It is Rob Tuvey with it bang on. It is 72.
Go
Who booked him?
This is. You're good at this, Rob. So you can only be coach.
God's sake.
Famous people's birthdays. Fantastic. Right, George. Is that only the third one?
Yeah, we've got 2 more.
Good God. Okay. Come on.
Running a bit late, Kev. Running a bit late.
No, we're on time. We're on time. Come on.
Okay, so next up is the footballer Connor Wickham.
Connor Wickham. I'm going to say 28. Graham?
26.
Chris?
30.
Rob?
28.
Okay. And Matthew?
29.
George? How old is Connor Wickham?
Well, we've got joint winners because Connor Wickham is in fact 27.
Who said 27?
No one, we've got joint winners, so a load of you are 1 year out.
Bloody hell, George, you're confusing the shit out of everyone. We got two look at it. Oh, no, wait, no one got it. Oh, okay, moving on.
Okay.
Sack. George, you're sacked again.
So basically no one got that right.
Well, no one got it bang on, no.
Some of us were one out either side. Okay.
Okay, so...
Never played draft, George. Is it possible?
Bullshit.
Rock,
Okay.
paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. Okay, George, the final one. Please, come on.
Okay, so the last one is AC/DC guitarist Angus Young.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go last. Matthew?
On it.
Okay.
Let's go with 67.
Rob?
69.
Hey,
Chris?
75.
Graham?
61.
I think the first album was 73 and he was only 16. I think he's going to be 68 today. George?
Well, it's close, but somehow Kevin has got it wrong, as has everybody. Angus Young is 65.
Is he really only 65? Good
He
grief.
does not look good for 65.
65. Wow. I thought it was older than that. Well, there you go. Well, thank you, George. That was you got that one bang on. So, thank you very much. So, finally, we've come to an end. So, don't forget, tomorrow's guests, Callum Riley and Joe Pigott. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks for being interactive. That's marvellous stuff. Thank you very much. There was some news, though. We could normally do some news, and we ran out of time, but there was a great news story. Forgetting Jack Grealish crashing his car. Because of the lockdown and people aren't going out, the Welsh town of Llandudno, or Llandudno, is being infested with goats wandering around the city centre. But then the town of Romford, Essex, where George is not from, almost from Romford, they've had a whole gang of deer. An actual gang of deer are wandering around people's gardens and just sitting in gardens because there's nobody about. So there you go. And it is the correct phrase, gang of deer, by the way, before someone corrects me. A mixed group of deer is a gang. There you go. Or leash. Leash.
Okay,
or
that's enough, Kevin.
No, that's important. People want to know stuff. They've got nothing else to do. So, thank everyone. So, firstly, thank you, Matthew Couper, giving up your time today to join us. That's been great. Thanks so much indeed, and good luck with the play. How can people find out more about it? Have you got an email address now for the play?
If people want it, they can drop me a line, matthew@afansclub.co.uk. Hopefully get a website up soon.
Good. Excellent. Thanks for that. Rob Tuvey, thank you very much indeed for getting all the questions right, knowing how to make tea, all the other stuff, but particularly for getting the Paul Osu game right straight away, and also for coaching our under-18s for their best ever season. Whether it finishes or not, this is the best season we've ever had as AFC Wimbledon under-18. So thank you very much indeed for your time. Cheers, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Graham, Stacey, Don Strasbourg, thank you very much indeed for all you've done since you've become part of the board. Strange time to be elected onto a board, a football club board, when there's no football. But hey, how did we know this at all? But Graham, thanks for your time indeed.
Thanks very much. Cheers, guys.
Graham.
Chris Draper obviously isn't there because he's actually working. That really wasn't Chris Draper. That's
Not
somebody
here.
else.
No.
He's not here. He's gone now. George, thank you very much indeed for joining
Thank
us
you.
again. I am still Kevin Boris somehow. Thank you very much indeed. And tomorrow you will join Nick, George, and Stuart. Join us again 5 p.m. 9 News podcast live on YouTube. Thank you.